Thrown out pregnant with twins. You won't believe how a stranger changed everything at midnight. The air was electric that night, crackling with anticipation and secrets. Shadows whispered ominously in the alleyways, where the unseen danced around corners, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown to calamity. And there she was, Sarah, trembling on the damp pavement, tear-streaked and broken, cradling her swollen belly as if the world had just thrown her into the depths of hell. Pregnant with twins and alone. A haunting sight. As the moon cast pale light over her, casting elongated shadows that moved with a mind of their own, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Appearing out of nowhere like a specter, the stranger stepped into the light, cloaked in mystery and darkness. His face obscured, yet his eyes glimmered with an enigmatic light, too bright beneath the crescent moon. She could feel the heat radiating from his presence, stirring something deep within her, fear or hope, she couldn't decide. Why? She choked out, her voice a hoarse whisper, anxiety gripping her chest like a vice. They had kicked her out, betrayed her, just when she needed them the most. Her trembling fingers clenched the fabric of her dress. As she looked up, the stranger stepped closer, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Was he there to help her? Or to make everything worse? Just then, a loud bang shattered the stillness, making her jump. It echoed down the street, a reminder of the chaos lurking beyond her vision. Maybe it was just the wind or a car door slamming. But the sudden tension wrapped around her neck like a noose, tightening with each passing second. She felt the baby's kicks, a frantic reminder that she couldn't afford to feel weak. Not now. Not ever. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The stranger leaned closer, his voice low and smooth, yet laced with something darker. You've got a choice to make, Sarah. Her heart raced. What kind of choice? Her mind spun with unanswered questions. Would she trust a mysterious man in the night? Was this the help she needed, or a trap set in shadows? Then he raised his hand, revealing something that glinted in the moonlight, a silver locket. This will change everything, he said, and she felt a shiver crawl down her spine. The night held its breath. As she reached for the locket, her fingers brushed against his, igniting a flicker of warmth. But then darkness loomed again, heavier than before, hovering around them. What secrets did it hold, and would she dare step into this unknown? She turned her gaze back, the alley sprawling behind her, filled with uncertainty. The choice lay before her, as the midnight air swirled around them, whispering promises or threats. A deep breath. Time to decide. What would she choose? As Sarah's fingers hovered over the locket, anxiety surged within her. She hesitated, the weight of her predicament pressing down like lead on her chest. Did she dare to reach for hope while shrouded in shadows? The midnight air thickened, wrapping around her throat, squeezing tighter. Take it, the stranger urged, his gaze never leaving hers. You need it more than you know. His voice was firm yet gentle, a strange combination that made her pulse quicken. What kind of man offered help in the dead of night? A savior? Or a predator masking his intentions with charm? The bang resonated in the distance again, shrill and closer this time. Fear gripped her heart, twisting it painfully. Nightmares skittered across her mind, images of rejection, despair, and loneliness. The locket jangled softly, a siren call that seeped into her very soul. Please, she breathed, looking deeper into his eyes, searching for truth. What will this do? What's in it for you? A flicker of something unreadable darted across his features, a smirk barely perceptible in the moonlight. Consider it a key, unlocking a future where you don't have to fight alone anymore. But once you take it, there's no turning back. The choice paralyzed her: take the risk or remain in utter desperation. Her children stirred within her, a frantic reminder of her worth, of the stakes involved. This was not just about her anymore. She needed to choose wisely. Before she could decide, a roar pealed through the darkness, sharp and monstrous. It was unmistakable: tires screeching, metal colliding. Loud chaos erupted nearby, and she instinctively took a step back, eyes darting toward the sounds. "Not now," she whispered, panic setting in. The combination of adrenaline and her baby's kicks flooded her mind. "Please, what do I do?" In one swift motion, the stranger closed the distance, taking her hand in his and pressing the locket into her palm. "You'll find out soon enough." At that moment, a blinding light pierced through the alley, illuminating everything, casting long shadows that danced frantically against the brick walls. Sarah squinted against the brightness, her heart racing as she turned her gaze back to the stranger. But he was gone, vanished into the night as if he had never been there at all. Gripped by confusion, Sarah clutched the locket tightly. It felt warm against her palm, pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. She was alone again, surrounded by the echoes of her doubts and the distant sirens heralding trouble. But buried beneath the fear lay a flicker of defiance. As she moved towards the alley's end, the sound of footsteps echoed behind her. A voice emerged from the chaos, familiar yet foreign. "Sarah. Is that you?" It was Jacob. The man she thought she could lean on, now calling her name amid the turmoil. "What are you doing here?" she breathed, panic rising. Did he know? Had he followed her? "Get away from here. You don't understand, it's too dangerous." His urgency wrapped around her like a lifeline, but the locket still burned in her pocket, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. With Jacob drawing closer, an ominous crack filled the air, and Sarah's world tilted. Would she let him pull her back into safety, or would she embrace the uncertainty waiting behind that silver locket? The turmoil escalated. Choices swirled like leaves caught in the wind. And as she stood at the precipice of decision, the universe held its breath once more. What would she choose? The moment Jacob's voice sliced through the chaos, adrenaline coursed like wildfire through Sarah's veins. She spun around, heart pounding with every breath. The street ahead was cloaked in shadows and flashes of red and blue, lights swirling like fireflies, an ominous circus of trouble. "Jacob. I don't have time for this," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper, panic clawing at her chest. "What is going on? I can't stay here." Before he could respond, another crash echoed in the distance, metal grinding against metal, sending a shiver racing down her spine. Her instinct was to escape, a primal urge fueled by the rising fear for her children. "You don't understand," Jacob insisted, eyes wide, slicing through the night's thick tension. "They're looking for you, Sarah. You've got to trust me." Trust? The very word felt like poison on her lips. Trust was what had led her to this moment, to a life spiraling out of control. Yet Jacob was her only connection to the outside world, the only semblance of safety she had left. Just then, shadows loomed larger at the alley's mouth, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "What do they want?" Jacob hesitated, his gaze darting past her, brimming with anxiety. "I can't explain now. Just, come with me. Please." A moment stretched forever as she contemplated. Behind her loomed darkness and uncertainty. Ahead glimmered the possibility of escape, but it came bundled with Jacob's desperate plea. The locket weighed heavy in her pocket, as if it were a ticking bomb set to explode, demanding she unravel its secrets. "Come on." Jacob grabbed her wrist, pulling her closer to him, his grip solid and safe. She instinctively looked back, scanning the shadows that seemed to breathe and reach for her. It was a risk, but then again, staying was a death sentence. With a pounding heart, she sprinted beside him, emotions churning violently. They bolted into the street, where chaos reigned. Sirens howled in the distance, onlookers gasped and pointed, unsure whether to help or flee. Where? She gasped, looking for direction as they veered through startled bodies. To my car. It's just a block away. They rounded a corner, and the world blurred around them. Jacob's face was contorted with focus, and that flicker of fear he wore fanned the flames inside her. Who was after her, and why? Suddenly, a piercing scream sliced through the air, sharp and terrifying. Sarah's heart threatened to jump from her chest. Did you hear that? She asked innocently, a sense of dread pooling in her stomach. Yes. He shouted, urgency edging his tone. Just keep moving. Moments passed in a terrifying blur, and finally, they reached a small sedan parked under flickering streetlights. Jacob fumbled with his keys, his hands trembling. With a twist, the door unlocked, and they dove in just as a gunshot rang out, echoing ominously around them. Drive. She urged, but Jacob was already peeling out into the night, leaving behind the chaos. They raced through the streets, the city lights casting fleeting shadows across their faces. What is happening, Jacob? Sarah demanded, glaring at him through the haze of fear and confusion. Who's after me? He turned towards her, the gravity of the situation pulling his brows low. I'll explain everything when it's safe. Just hold on tight. Tension hung in the air like a veil, thick and suffocating, as they made their escape. But the locket burned against her skin, a reminder of the choice she had made. What had she invited into her life? And then, a thought struck her like lightning. Jacob. What if I can find out what this locket does? What if it can help us? His eyes widened, an expression flickering between hope and disbelief. What do you mean? Just trust me, she whispered, clutching the locket tightly. The mysterious stranger had promised her a future. But could she trust in that flicker of hope in a world spiraling into madness? The road ahead darkened, and she realized this was just the beginning. What awaited her, both in the heart and at the end of the street, was a reckoning that would change everything but. At what cost? The wind whistled through the open windows, howling as they sped away. Sarah's heart hammered in time with the pulsing lights in the rearview mirror. Every glance back felt like an eternity, the world blurring past them while shadows seemed to stretch long and menacing behind. Jacob, please. You have to tell me what's happening. Panic clawed at her throat, every second ticking louder than the last. The locket pulsed like a living thing in her pocket, an unseen force that held answers she desperately needed. That he gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles white in the glow of the dashboard lights. I wish I could, I really do. But I need to get you to safety first. Safe from what? She pressed, her voice rising. How can I be safe when I have no idea what is coming? Jacob's eyes darted to hers, sorrow and urgency intertwined. From them. Whoever they are looking for you, they won't stop until they find you. We need to get safe first. Then I'll explain everything. Do you even know what is going on? I know more than I can say. His voice fell flat, as if the weight of secrets nearly crushed him. But trusting this locket could change everything, even your life. Her breath hitched. The thought of a future tangled with questions made her stomach twist. What if it turned out to be a curse rather than a blessing? She reached into her pocket and felt the cool metal resting against her palm. Could it really help? Jacob's anguish suggested more than she imagined. Glimpses of a flurry of police cars flashed behind them in the distance, red and blue lights twisting like a cruel joke. They're coming, he muttered under his breath, fear etching deeper lines into his face. I can't let them catch you. Suddenly, the car jolted over a pothole, and Sarah clenched the armrest, heart racing. She had to find answers. Jacob, what if there is something in the locket that can protect me? What if it has the key to everything? Don't, Jacob warned sharply. We don't have time for that now. They're closing in. Before he could finish his sentence, a blaring horn cut through the night. Another car, headlights blinding them, swerved into their path, dangerously close. Jacob slammed his foot down on the gas pedal. Hold on. The tires screeched against the pavement as they careened away. The echo of harsh shouts darkened the air, voices crackling with anger. The locket was now the center of her world, a tangible lifeline amidst this insanity. The car flew down narrow alleys, Jacob's hands steady as he weaved around the chaos, navigating through unlit streets that felt like they might swallow them whole. Her mind raced alongside the vehicle. Those voices, that threat, it felt personal. But why? Why was she the target? Why are they after me? The words slipped out, filled with confusion and desperation. He looked straight ahead, eyes focused, but his voice was quiet, almost mourning. Because of what your children could become, what they could mean for all of us. You're the link. Shock rippled through her. My children? The locket blazed in her pocket, suddenly charged with meaning. How could something so small hold so much power? Finally, they reached a narrow dead-end street. Jacob stopped the car abruptly, breathing heavily as if the weight of the world lay on his shoulders. We need to get out now, he urged, urgency kicking through him like a jolt of electricity. Follow me, Sarah. Fast. A shiver danced down her spine. She nodded, feeling lost but compelled to trust. Together, they slipped out of the car into the night. But as they did, a figure emerged from the darkness, silhouetted against the pale streetlight, and all the air in her lungs vanished. Sarah, the voice boomed, a deep echo that sent dread curling in her gut. It was someone she recognized, a ghost from her past. What more could they possibly want from her? Fear gripped her fingers around the locket as the truth loomed dangerously close. And then, just as quickly, Jacob shouted, "Run!" The chase began again. But this time, the stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. Sarah's legs moved before her mind could catch up. The urgency in Jacob's voice pushed her forward, the pounding of her heart drowning out the shadows that were closing in. She glanced back just in time to see the figure transform from a silhouette into a recognizable face, a menacing expression twisting their features. "Wait," the figure called, their voice laced with a desperation that made Sarah's stomach knot. It was Daniel, her old friend, or at least he used to be. Their paths had diverged long ago, but she had never imagined he would become a part of this chaos. "Don't stop. Keep moving." Jacob called to her, pulling her away to the left side of the street. "Jacob, we can't just leave him." She protested, her limbs trembling as fear coursed through her. Memories of happier times with Daniel flashed through her mind. Could he be a friend after all? "He's not here to help us," Jacob said, urgency tightening his grip on her wrist. "Trust me. We'll figure out who he is later. Right now, we need to survive." The two of them sprinted down the alley, the world around them silent except for their ragged breaths and the far-off sirens blaring like a warning chorus. Sarah's mind raced. Daniel must have some connection to this mess, but how deep did it go? A sudden tightness gripped her chest as she pushed the thoughts away, focusing on the adrenaline fueling her legs. Suddenly, Jacob skidded to a stop, fingers pointing to a rusty door tucked in the corner. "In there." The urgency in his voice was electric, sending her heart to race even faster. With a nod, Sarah dashed toward the door, pushing it open with a frantic shove. An old storage shed greeted them, covered in cobwebs and dimly lit by the faint slivers of moonlight peeking through the cracks. They tumbled inside, breathless and panicked, and Jacob quickly shut the door behind them, pressing his back against it, listening intently. "We'll stay here, at least for a moment," he panted. "We just need to." Before he could finish, a loud crash echoed outside as the door rattled, the figure of Daniel looming larger than life against the dim light. "Sarah! You have to hear me. I know what's happening." "Jacob!" Her voice trembled as she looked to him. "He's asking for help. Doesn't it matter?" Jacob snapped back, his eyes wild. "He's one of them. If he's here, it's to take you back." "No," she shouted, her heart racing. "You don't know that." The locket in her pocket pulsed once more, electric and alive against her skin. Sarah, we don't have time for this. Jacob's face held a mix of fear and determination. What if he knows the truth? What if he is part of why they're after you? The rattling continued, followed by muffled shouting. Sarah! Please! Daniel begged, desperation spilling into his voice. I'm trying to protect you. The locket pulsed harder now, a cold weight in her pocket beckoning for attention. As she fumbled for it, Sarah felt a sudden connection, a surge of clarity as pieces began to align. But what if trusting the locket meant putting everyone at risk, including Jacob? Jacob, she started, but before she could voice her thoughts, the door trembled violently. Let us go. He urged, pulling her away just as the door burst open, revealing Daniel, eyes desperate and pleading. Shadows loomed behind him, figures emerging in quick succession. Sarah! He yelled, reaching for her. Please! Listen! Panic clawed at her throat as she weighed her choices. Should she trust Jacob, the man who insisted on her safety, or the man who once vowed to protect her, who now stood in the midst of chaos? Before she could decide, a loud crash echoed deafeningly through the shed, sending splinters of wood flying. The urgency became unbearable as she realized they were running out of options, trapped between two choices neither felt safe, and then she felt the locket thrumming insistently against her hand, a signal, perhaps, or a warning. What if it held the key to everything but became a risk if it failed her? Sarah! Jacob shouted again, pulling her out of her thoughts. Forget about him. We need to move. Now. She had to decide. The locket, her children, the truth, everything was on the line. With a deep breath, she faced the bottomless chasm of uncertainty ahead. What if trusting Daniel was the only way to break free? Daniel! She called finally, the weight in her chest lifting just slightly with the words. Tell me what you know. As she stepped toward him, the world shifted, the chase now more than a physical escape, it was a plunge into an abyss of fractured loyalties and buried truths that could shatter them all. But who would survive this descent? The moment the words left Sarah's lips, she felt a chill creep through the shed. Daniel's desperation morphed into a flicker of hope, but it was overshadowed by the chaos surrounding them. The shadows lurking just beyond the door shifted ominously, their forms growing larger and more menacing. Sarah, please. Daniel stepped farther inside, his hands raised placatingly, but Jacob's body tensed, ready to push her back if needed. I swear I'm not here to hurt you. I've been trying to find you. Jacob shot a look at Sarah, his eyes wide with uncertainty. We don't know if he is telling the truth. We have to go. I'll take the chance. She yelled back, her heart hammering in her chest. The weight of the locket against her hand felt heavier, almost as if it were resonating with the truth she desperately sought. Why should I trust you? She pressed, her voice wavering. You vanished from my life without a word. Now you show up claiming to protect me. I made mistakes. Daniel shouted, panic threading his voice. But you don't understand what's happening. They're coming for you, Sarah. They know you're pregnant, and they're terrified of what your children could mean for this world. The air thickened with tension. Each word slipped like a delicate thread, weaving a tapestry of fear. Pregnant. This was a revelation she hadn't bargained for. How could he possibly know information so intimate? Was he truly trying to help or manipulating her? Get away from her. Jacob shouted, stepping into Daniel's space, his expression burning with fury. He is just trying to confuse you. A thud outside made Sarah's heart race. They were running out of time. How could she decide between the past and what felt like a reluctant promise of safety? Sarah. Daniel called, urgency coloring his tone. Listen to me. They believe you're a threat because of the locket. It's not just a piece of jewelry. It's a key to their plan. You're more important than you know. What plan? The questions swirled in her mind, drowning out the fear. If the locket was indeed a key, what door did it open, and who was it meant for? She caught a glimpse of Jacob's fierce gaze upon her, a reminder of their bond forged in the fire of survival. 3 seconds. Jacob threatened, glancing back at the door as another loud crash echoed. Tyler and Emma need you. Daniel continued. Your children please, they're all that matters. Don't you see? This isn't just about you anymore. The name of her children paralyzed her, fracturing her resolve. Her babies were at stake. If there was truth in Daniel's words, she had to dive into this chaotic unknown. But was she diving into a trap? Sarah. Jacob's voice was panicked as pride clashed with reality. We have to go now. The door rattled violently, splinters flying as a shadow loomed beside Daniel. He looked behind him, fear morphing his features. Get back, Sarah. A surge of adrenaline jolted her forward. You need to help. She pleaded, stepping into the tangled web of desperation. Tell me everything now. Daniel's eyes widened as shadows danced dangerously close, the air electric with anxiety and finality. Use the locket. It's linked to them, to their leader. He'll come if you. The door splintered open, and in a split second, a throng of figures surged into the space. They were cloaked in darkness, eyes glinting with hunger. Sarah's breath hitched. The danger had come crashing down. Now. Jacob shouted, grabbing her wrist, anchoring her in a reality that threatened to pull her apart. Daniel! Sarah screamed, but his silhouette was already blurring in the chaos, disappearing into the swirling dark. With one last look, filled with longing and fear, she turned to flee but stopped short. Your choice. Daniel cried, his figure swallowed by shadows, his voice trailing off in her mind like an echo, but Sarah didn't just feel fear now, she felt rage surfacing, intertwining with the pulse of the locket at her side. This chaos couldn't remain. Fueled by a determination she didn't know she possessed, she clutched the locket tighter, feeling its energy surge through her like electricity. She had to fight, but the question loomed larger than life. A battle was brewing. Would trusting this locket usher in her salvation or doom? The figures closed in, and the world seemed to stop around her as everything converged into chaos. What destiny awaited her in this night soaked with shadows and uncertainty? The past haunted her while the present threatened to consume her. The tumult had only just begun. The shadows twisted into monstrous forms, creeping closer as Sarah clutched the locket, adrenaline coursing through her veins like fire. Jacob jerked her away from the door, his grip vice-like, but her heart was pounding not just with fear but a burgeoning resolve. Let go of me. She shouted, dragging against his hold as she felt the weight of destiny pressing in. Out of the corner of her eye, the dark figures surged forth, their movements graceful yet ominous. She could hear a whisper, soft and insistent, rising through the chaos, urging her to act. Use it. Daniel's voice echoed in her mind as if he were standing beside her. What if this locket truly held the power he claimed? What if it could unlock something that could save them? Jake, listen. She cried, desperation gripping her throat. We can't leave. There's something I need to do. He hesitated, eyes darting between her and the approaching darkness. You don't know what you're dealing with. It could be a trick. Or it could be our only way out. She countered, panic spilling into her voice. The figures pressed closer, their movements synchronizing as they melted into one grotesque mass. They seemed to breathe as one, alive and hungry. With a swift motion, Sarah tugged free of Jacob's grip. I have to try. She stepped back from the door, holding the locket before her, the cool metal entwined with a warmth she couldn't explain. The figures halted, their gazes drawn to the shimmering artifact in her palm. The air became electric, charged with possibilities. Show me, she whispered, feeling the thrum of the locket resonate with her heartbeat. For a moment, time stood still. The shadows danced like flame, a hypnotic rhythm pulling her in. Suddenly, the locket glowed, a blinding light erupting from within. Sarah gasped, instinctively lifting her hands to shield her eyes. The figures recoiled, emitting low growls of confusion mixed with fear. The light expanded, forming a protective barrier around her and Jacob, pushing back the encroaching darkness. "Stay close!" Jacob shouted, eyes wide, his disbelief evident. "Don't let it go!" he pleaded as the world around them blurred into brightness. Heart racing, she locked her eyes on the light. "Bring me to the truth!" she shouted, clarity slicing through the chaos. The shadows howled, retreating further, their sinister forms twisting and pulling themselves back, seemingly thwarted by the light's power. But just as quickly as it had emerged, the brightness began to fade. The shimmering energy sputtered, and Sarah felt the weight of the locket as if it were being pulled back into the depths of shadows trying to reclaim what was their own. "Sarah!" Jacob's voice snapped her back to her core. "We have to move." He yanked her away from the dying light, hurling them both towards the shed's weak back wall that held a single window barely a chance of escape. With a gasp, she turned to face him. "We're not safe yet. We need to understand what is happening. You think I want to leave you behind? Those things, they're coming for us. You're the one they want." His eyes glimmered, mixing a wild fear with something darker. Behind them, the luminance dimmed, the figures growing bolder as darkness crept in to repay its debt. Time was slipping, every second a pulse of impending doom. "Trust me," Sarah urged, holding out the locket, its surface still warm from that mysterious glow. "It can't just be for show. It's powerful." "Powerful how?" Jacob rushed towards the window, his breath sharp as he concentrated on the hatch. "You think it's a weapon? We can't use it without knowing what it is. We don't have time for questions." The door shuddered violently, splinters flying as the shadows lunged at their last line of defense. Every instinct cried out that they were on the brink. But Sarah felt an undeniable force pulling her toward the locket. It was more than a key, it was alive. "Make a choice," she screamed, staring at Jacob, her heart in turmoil. Would she attempt to unlock the secrets behind the locket, or did they need to escape, running from the unknown that threatened to consume them? Another crash echoed, the door splitting under the strain of shadowed weight. Sarah now. With one final glance into Jacob's uncertain eyes, she swallowed hard. "Then let us hope we can figure it out together." Just as the silhouettes broke through, the locket pulsed one last time, sending a shockwave through the air. Sarah lunged forward, her heart racing, knowing a new chapter was about to unfold, but not what awaited them in the abyss beyond. What truth lay hidden in the shadows surrounding them? And could they really harness the power of the locket before it was too late? The moment Sarah lunged forward, the world around her shifted, exploding into cascades of light and sound. The shadows halted, momentarily disoriented by the energy radiating from the locket. It felt like a tidal wave of hope crashing against the relentless tide of despair. "Hold on!" she yelled to Jacob as she felt the pull of the locket deep in her gut. Without warning, the overpowering light pierced through her, and in that instant, she saw visions, flashes of countless moments that were not her own, a past, a future, and the weight of choices yet to be made. "Sarah!" Jacob's voice echoed in her mind as she stumbled forward, enveloped by a whirlwind of colors. She saw them figures standing shoulder to shoulder, each one holding something different, a key, a map, and a torch illuminating a darkened path. Until, with a deafening crack, everything began to collapse into darkness again. The flashes dissipated like a mirage, leaving a desperate urge lingering within her. "No, don't lose it." She pushed the locket forward again, feeling the fiery energy ignite in her fingertips. The shadows were regaining their form, snaking around the floor and creeping higher like an insatiable fog. But the locket now radiated a glowing golden hue, and Sarah could sense it was responding to her determination. "Simon, Simon." Jacob's voice strained as he yanked at the window, the wood splintering under the pressure of their escape. Sweat glistened on his forehead, but his focus never wavered from her. "Give me just a second," she shouted back, firm in her resolve. Let us see what this thing can really do. With one final burst of will, she shouted at the locket, reveal the truth. Show us. The words left her lips like a declaration, a challenge thrown into the dark. Just then, the locket pulsed, creating ripples in the air like waves on water. The shadows drew closer, but as they did, beams of light burst forth from the locket, carving through the darkness like swords. It illuminated the space, revealing what lay within the tendrils, a swirling vortex of memories, fear, desperation, and a singular truth that shimmered on the edge of her consciousness. Jacob, awestruck, momentarily ceased pulling at the window. It's working, it's really working. But then the realization hit her, glowing fragments of images were being consumed by the shadows, drowning out the light. The darkness was fighting back, desperate to reclaim control. We need to focus. Sarah called out, feeling the heat of the locket pull stronger. Together. Picture what we want. Freedom. Safety. Freedom, Jacob echoed, his eyes reflecting the flickering light. And then, without warning, he clasped her hand tightly, grounding her. We've got this. We just have to believe. In that moment, the air shifted again, and Sarah felt a sense of clarity she hadn't known before. This was not just a battle against the shadows, it was a confrontation with every fear that had ever held her back. Yes. She shouted, willing the locket to unleash its power. Show us what we need. Suddenly, bursts of energy erupted from the locket, forming a spiraling web that ensnared the shadows, drawing them back in torrents. The rugged wooden walls of the shed began to shimmer as though they were being rebuilt from the inside out, pulsating with the combined will of their hope and fear, a vivid tapestry of light pushing against the dark. But just then, a deafening roar erupted, shaking the ground beneath them. The entire structure quaked, splintering around them. The shadows hammered at the edges of their light, screaming in fury, striking fear deep into Sarah's heart. Sarah! Jacob shouted, eyes wide with panic. I don't know how much longer we can hold them back. We can't give up. She cried, her voice steady despite the chaos. This is our chance. The locket dimmed momentarily before flashing brighter than ever, merging with their combined light. They felt it then, an unyielding strength that pulled them forward, urging them to step into the unknown. With the crushing weight of shadows writhing against their luminous barrier, Sarah braced herself. Together. Go! Jacob roared, pushing her towards a glowing passage that formed in the air, one she sensed would lead them away from the shadows. But as they crossed the threshold, an ominous whisper slithered through the air, chilling her bones. Not yet, this is only the beginning. What awaited them on the other side? And could the truth they sought bring them salvation or plunge them deeper into darkness? The moment they crossed the threshold, the world shifted again. Everything spun wildly around them, colors clashed, and sounds echoed like a frantic heartbeat. Sarah felt her stomach drop, a sickening lurch as they were flung into an abyss of dizzying sensations. Gasping for breath, they landed on a hard surface. The world snapped back into focus, revealing a sprawling landscape under a starless sky. Shadows loomed in the distance, stretching like twisted fingers, but the light from the locket held them at bay. Where are we? Jacob breathed, scanning their surroundings. I don't know. Sarah's heart raced as she stood up. The ground was cold beneath her bare feet. A chill ran through her, reminding her that they weren't safe yet. Before they could take in their new environment, they heard muffled voices drifting from beyond the edge of a darkened forest nearby. The whispers were barely audible, punctuated by soft sobs, creating an air of desperation that clung to the night. Do you hear that? Jacob asked, leaning closer to her. His brows furrowed, an edge of fear creeping into his voice. Yeah, Sarah replied, her pulse quickening. It sounds like people. They exchanged glances, unspoken thoughts swirling between them. Curiosity battled with caution, but the need to know what lay ahead pushed them forward. As they moved closer to the tree line, the shadows began to twist more wildly around them, growing agitated. With each step they took, the locket pulsed at her chest, glowing brighter as if sensing the turmoil surrounding them. "What if the shadows follow us?" Jacob whispered, anxiety tightening his voice. "We can't think like that," Sarah insisted, determination flaring defiantly in her chest. "We need answers." They stepped cautiously into the underbrush, branches snagging at their clothes. The whispers grew clearer as they advanced. "Please, no, don't take my baby," a woman's voice cracked, laden with anguish. Without hesitation, Sarah rushed ahead, propelled by a mixture of urgency and empathy. They pushed past the brambles and emerged into a clearing that in the center stood a tattered tent, sagging at the corners, illuminated by flickering lanterns. A group surrounded it, their faces obscured, but the raw emotion was palpable. A young girl clung to her sobbing mother, grasping tightly to a worn-out doll while an older man paced nervously, eyes darting around as if waiting for an imminent threat. "What is happening?" Jacob murmured, anxiety thickening his tone. "I don't know, but we can't leave them here," Sarah said, a compelling sense of responsibility filling her heart. Their escape from the shadows couldn't be justified if they turned away from others in need. Steeling herself, she stepped forward. "Excuse me," she called, her voice trembling but firm. Startled, the group turned towards them. Eyes widened, fear flickering across their faces as they took in the radiant glow of the locket. The woman who had been crying stepped closer. "Please, someone help us." She reached out, desperation etched into her every feature. "We don't have much time. The darkness is coming with dreadful certainty." Sarah felt the shadows in the distance stir ominously. "What do you mean?" she demanded, the weight of the unfolding reality crashing down. "What darkness?" Then, without warning, another vision hit her like a punch to the gut. This time it was not her own, it was a glimpse of a future in chaos, shadows devouring everything, and the group here trapped, destined to be lost in the void. "Sarah!" Jacob's voice cut through her daze, panic ringing through him. "You need to decide, do we help them or no?" she said fiercely, fighting against the grip of fear tightening around her soul. "We can't leave them." But the whispering shadows had begun to close in on their sanctuary, thickening, thrumming with anger. Their presence loomed dreadfully, an ominous reminder that the battle was far from over. "Help us," the woman urged once more, eyes wide with terror. "Only you can stop it. Who are you?" Jacob asked. "And what do you know about the shadows?" Just as she opened her mouth to speak, the ground trembled. The air filled with a cacophony of growls and hissed threats, echoing the warnings of the shadows. In that moment, Sarah understood, they weren't just fighting for their survival. They were part of something much larger, an interwoven tapestry of destinies teetering on the brink. "What are we going to do?" Jacob breathed, his face pale. Desperation clawed at Sarah, but a flicker of resolve sparked within. They had come too far to turn back. "We're going to face this together. No more running." And before she knew it, the locket pulsed with an unsettling energy, urging her onward as shadows danced hungrily at the edge of the clearing. A shrill scream echoed behind her, and Sarah's heart froze. "What now?" "This isn't over," the woman said, her face transforming from despair to fierce determination. Not yet. Was this stand worth trading for the flickering light of hope? Or had they just stepped deeper into the abyss? The echoes of the night rebounded in the clearing as Sarah stood tall, heart hammering against her chest. The tremor of urgency radiated through her, and the warm pulse of the locket seemed to synchronize with her racing heartbeat. Around her, shadows twisted and danced, growing bolder. Each growl and hiss vibrated within her, a primal awareness that told her they were far from safe. "Help us," the woman repeated, eyes alight with desperation. "You must use the locket." "Sarah. We must think clearly." Jacob insisted, his tone laced with alarm. "This isn't the place to stand and debate." But as the crowd behind them tentatively shifted, Sarah sensed that this battle couldn't be avoided. Confrontations would be part of their journey. The echoes of her fears were real, but entwined within them was the undeniable spark of hope. "No, Jacob," she replied, voice steely. "We can't turn away from them. Whatever is coming after us will come for them too." The woman stepped forward, urgency mingling with fear. "You can summon the light. You can drive back the darkness." "A choice has to be made, Sarah," Jacob urged, gripping her shoulder. "What if this locket holds something we are not prepared for?" But already, the light-filled reflections of possibility danced before her eyes like a mirage. The power of the locket spoke to her, a tether whispering secret answers. "I have to try," she said, determination hardening her heart. Before Jacob could voice another protest, she raised the locket, feeling the heat rise within her, a solar flare against the chilling encroachment of shadows. "Stay close," she dictated, taking a step forward, daring the darkness to congeal and come forth. With the locket in hand, she envisioned the light stemming from this ancient artifact, pushing bravely through the gloom. Her heart synced with its rhythm, calling out towards the shroud of despair looming over them. "Show us the truth." The shadows recoiled, their snarls fading into confusion as the locket brightened, illuminating the ground around them. An overwhelming flood of light erupted, clearing the air and filling the tent with warmth. The shadows hissed, retreating momentarily from the radiance, their forms curling back like smoke in the wind. "Now, Sarah," the woman urged, desperation old but flickering with some new hope. "Make the light grow." The chanting knell pulled Sarah deeper, giving her strength to move. Clutching the locket tightly against her heart, she felt the energy of everyone in the clearing swell an unwavering collective longing for safety. "Light!" she shouted, the word bursting forth like a command. "Be our sanctuary." The locket pulsed fiercely, and luminous tendrils unfurled from within, wrapping around the gathering like a cocoon. The shadows erupted with a broken howl, resisting the illumination but faltering against the strength bursting forth. Jacob, eyes widened, gripped Sarah's hand tighter, sharing her determination. "You're doing it. Keep going." The warmth spread like wildfire through the clearing, igniting the spirits of the crowd around them. Their gazes locked on the locket, faith and fear intertwined. "We can save each other," Sarah shouted, her voice resonating in the cocoon of growing light. In that moment, the shadows recoiled, removed from their suffocating hold, inching backward as chaos threatened to unleash. But even as the light reclaimed its space, flickers of darkness lunged forward, gargling their fury and desperation. "Embrace the light," the woman cried out one more time, eyes blazing. "It will protect you." With a primal scream lifting from her core, Sarah harnessed every flicker of hope she and the gathered souls had. This was no longer just about her, it became a united front against the dark. The light responded, radiating outwards and illuminating a path extending into the night. Then she saw it, a brilliant portal forming just beyond the reach of shadow. The whispers weren't of fear anymore. They had evolved into exclamations of liberation. "Let us go," Jacob urged, his voice fierce, filled with courage. "We can step into the light." As shadows screeched their last, Sarah felt the light envelop them, pulling her forward as she sprinted towards the portal holding possibilities beyond anything she imagined. Gripping Jacob's hand tightly, they dove through. A rush of energy surged, and as they landed, a wave of landscapes unfurled around them, lush greenery sparkling beneath the morning sun, the air vibrant with unfamiliar scents and the sound of laughter. Gone was the darkness. They were alive, unshackled by the turmoil that had once gripped them. They rushed to look around, bewildered yet relieved, and caught sight of the woman standing close by, her eyes now sparkling with a brilliance they hadn't seen before. "You did it. You broke the connection," she exclaimed. "What happens now?" Jacob questioned, curiosity woven with lingering anxiety. The woman's smile radiated purpose. "Together, we can rebuild and ensure the shadows never return. You hold the light, and now it's time to share it." Sarah caught a glimpse of the horizon, the shimmering promise of a future unwritten before her. She turned to Jacob, gratitude swelling within her. We can make a difference. Together in that moment, fear faded, replaced by a thrilling thrill of hope. They had faced the darkness, together defiant. Not just for their own future but for all who needed light against the encroaching shadows. This was their beginning, a chance to forge a new path, where darkness had no place to dwell. As they took each other's hands, they knew, the journey ahead would be filled with uncertainty, but they faced it together, hearts resolved, and light shining bright. But remember, this adventure is only possible with your support. You need to subscribe now and be part of our growing community, so you don't miss more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more amazing souls like you. And flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about what happens next, because your voice is powerful. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring ending. Your participation writes the next chapter.